There's a moment every single morning that decides how your entire day will go, and most men sleep right through its importance. It's the first conscious second after you wake, before you're fully awake, before you've decided anything, when your hand is already moving toward the phone out of pure habit. And in that vulnerable, half-dreaming moment, the old ache is waiting for you. The memory of her, the urge to check, the hope that maybe overnight something changed. If no contact has been feeling impossible to you, if you've made it through the day only to crumble in the quiet, or woken up already losing the battle before your feet even hit the floor, I need you to understand something. It's not because you're weak. It's because no one ever taught you that the war is won or lost in the first hour of the morning, and that you've been walking into that hour completely unarmed. Today, that changes. I'm going to give you a specific morning practice, simple, ancient, and ruthlessly effective, that takes no contact from feeling impossible to feeling almost automatic. Do this every morning, and you won't just survive the silence, you'll start to own it. But before we begin, if you've ever woken up already reaching for that phone, do this one thing for yourself right now. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because that's how you become a Stoic soldier, a man who shows up for his own discipline every single day and never misses the lesson when he needs it most. And down in the comments, type 4 words and mean them. I win my mornings. Say it before you've even finished watching, because the words you claim today become the strength you stand on tomorrow. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Why mornings are the hardest. Let's start by understanding why mornings hit so much harder than any other part of the day, because once you see the mechanism, you stop blaming yourself and start working with reality instead of against it. When you wake up, you are at your most vulnerable, and not in a way that's your fault. Your defenses are down. The rational, disciplined part of your mind, the part that knows exactly why you're doing no contact and exactly why breaking it is a mistake, that part is still half asleep, still coming online, still booting up. But the emotional part, the part that holds the longing and the habit and the ache, that part wakes up instantly. So for those first few minutes, you're operating with your heart fully awake and your discipline still in bed. That's a losing matchup, and it's why so many men who hold strong all day find themselves crumbling at 6 or 7 in the morning, reaching for the phone before they've even formed a conscious thought. You're not failing. You're just walking into the day's hardest moment with your weakest defenses every single time. And it gets more dangerous than that because of how the human mind handles its very first input. The first thought you allow in the morning doesn't just sit there, it sets a tone, and that tone colors everything that follows. If the first thing you do is reach for your phone and let your mind drift to her, to checking, to wondering, you've just told your brain what today is about. You've handed the steering wheel to the ache before you were even conscious enough to object. And now you'll spend the whole day trying to wrestle it back. The morning is the moment the day gets programmed, and most men let it get programmed by their wound. The Stoics understood the weight of the first moment better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius opened his most famous writings with a morning meditation, a deliberate setting of his mind before the world could set it for him. He knew that a man who doesn't consciously choose his first thoughts will have them chosen for him by habit, by craving, by whatever happens to be loudest. So this is the foundation of everything that follows. Mornings are the hardest because they're when you're weakest and when the day gets decided both at once, which means they're also your single greatest opportunity, because if you can win the morning, you've won the part of the day that decides all the rest. Number 2, the real reason. It feels impossible. So let's name the real reason no contact feels impossible, because almost everyone gets this wrong, and getting it wrong is exactly why they keep failing. Men think the problem is willpower. They think they're just not strong enough, not disciplined enough, that other men must have some iron resolve they were born without. So they grit their teeth and try to white-knuckle their way through, fighting the urge with raw force every time it rises, and they lose again and again and conclude they're broken. But here's the truth. Willpower was never the answer, and the reason it keeps failing you is that willpower is a finite resource that drains throughout the day. Every urge you fight by force costs you something, and by the time the hard moments come, your tank is empty. Trying to do no contact on willpower alone is like trying to bail out a sinking boat with a teaspoon. You might keep it afloat for a while through sheer effort, but you're exhausting yourself fighting a battle that was never meant to be won that way. The real reason it feels impossible is much simpler and far more fixable. You never gave your mind a new first move. Right now, when the urge hits, your mind has exactly one default response wired into it. Reach for her, check, ruminate, ache. There's no competing path, no alternative groove for that energy to run down, so of course it floods straight into the old one every time. You're not weak. You just have an empty space where a new habit should be, and nature abhors that vacuum, so the old craving rushes in to fill it. This is why a morning practice changes everything, not because it requires more willpower, but because it requires less. Instead of fighting the old pattern with force, you simply build a new one and run it first, before the old one even has a chance to fire. You give your mind somewhere else to go the moment you wake, a new default move that gets stronger every day you repeat it. The Stoics knew that we are fundamentally creatures of habit, that we become what we repeatedly do, and that the way you defeat a bad pattern is never by sheer resistance. It's by installing a better pattern in its place. So stop trying to muscle your way through no contact. You're not going to out-willpower a craving that's had years to dig its groove. You're going to outbuild it, and it starts the moment you open your eyes. Number 3, the power of the first hour. Before I give you the practice itself, you have to understand the principle that makes it work, because it's the difference between a few random morning habits and a genuine transformation. That principle is this: the first hour of your day is not just 1 hour out of 16, it is the hour that programs all the others. There's a momentum to a day, a direction it gets pointed in early, and once it's pointed, it's very hard to turn. Think about the difference yourself. On the mornings you wake up, immediately grab the phone, fall into the scroll, drift into thoughts of her, and start the day reactive and aching. How does the rest of that day tend to go? Scattered, heavy. You spend it on the back foot, managing a mood that was set before you were even fully awake. But on the rare mornings you wake up and do something intentional first. Move your body, set your mind, take control before the world reaches you. How does that day go? Steadier, stronger, more yours. Same man, same circumstances. Completely different day, and the only variable was the first hour. This is why the first hour is the highest leverage time you have, and why winning it is the closest thing to a cheat code that exists for staying the course on no contact. When you start the day grounded, intentional, and in command of your own mind, the urges that come later in the day hit a man who's already standing on solid ground, and they barely move him. But when you start the day reactive and aching, every urge that comes later lands on a man who's already off balance, and it knocks him straight over. You're not just doing a morning routine to feel good for an hour. You're setting the entire foundation that every other hour will be built on top of. The Stoics treated the morning as sacred preparation, a time to arm the mind before sending it out into a world full of things designed to disturb it. Marcus Aurelius would rehearse his whole day in advance at dawn, steadying himself before the chaos could reach him. He understood that a mind prepared in the quiet is nearly impossible to shake in the storm. So as we move into the actual practice, hold this in your mind. You're not collecting habits. You're seizing the 1 hour that decides the other 15, and through it, taking back command of your entire day, and eventually, your entire recovery. Number 4, the practice. Part 1, the first thought. So here it is. The practice begins, and it begins before you touch a single thing, before your feet even hit the floor. Part 1 is reclaiming your first thought. The moment you become conscious in the morning, there is a tiny window, a few seconds, before the habits take over, before your hand reaches for the phone, before the ache fully wakes up. Most men sleep through that window and let the day grab them. You're going to claim it. The instant you wake, before you reach for anything, you're going to give your mind one deliberate thought, chosen by you in advance, not whatever drifts in, something you decided the night before. It can be simple, a single line that reminds you who you are and what you're doing. Today, I belong to myself. I am building a man who needs no one. My peace is mine, and I'm not handing it to anyone today. The exact words matter less than the act of choosing them on purpose, because what you're really doing is planting your flag in that first moment before the wound can plant its own. This sounds almost too small to matter, but understand the mechanism because it's profound. By placing a chosen thought into that first conscious window, you are doing the one thing the ache counts on you never doing. You're getting there first. You're occupying the ground before the craving can take it, and it completely changes the order of operations of your entire morning. Instead of waking into longing and spending the day climbing out of it, you wake into intention and spend the day building on top of it. The Stoics practiced exactly this. Marcus Aurelius literally began his mornings by reminding himself of who he intended to be that day and what he might face, setting his mind deliberately before the world could set it for him. You're doing the same thing, scaled to your battle. So tonight, decide your first thought. Write it down if you have to. Put it where you'll see it. Make it the very first thing your mind reaches for. And tomorrow, the instant your eyes open, before the phone, before the ache, before anything, you say it, you mean it, and you've already won the first and most important skirmish of the day. Not with force, with nothing but a thought you chose, claimed a few seconds before the old pattern could. Number 5, the practice. Part 2, rehearse the pull. Part 2 of the morning practice is the one almost nobody does, and it's the one that takes away the urge's single greatest weapon, surprise. Here's what usually happens. You go about your morning feeling fine, maybe even strong, and then, out of nowhere, a song, a memory, a notification, a quiet moment, the urge ambushes you. And because it caught you off guard, it hits at full force, and you scramble, and sometimes you lose. The urge wins by surprise, so in the morning, while you're calm and clear-headed, you're going to take that weapon away by doing something the Stoics practiced for 2,000 years. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. It means deliberately rehearsing the hard thing before it arrives, so that when it comes, it finds you ready instead of ambushed. Each morning, you take a quiet moment and you say to yourself, plainly, today the urge will come. At some point, I'm going to want to reach out. I'm going to feel that pull, maybe hard. And when it comes, I already know what it is. It's withdrawal, not truth. And I already know what I'm going to do. Nothing. I'm going to feel it and let it pass and stay the course. Do you see what that does? You've just robbed the urge of its power to surprise you. When it shows up later, and it will, instead of catching you off guard and throwing you into panic, it arrives exactly as predicted, almost like an old acquaintance you were expecting. Ah, there it is, right on schedule. I knew you'd come. And a feeling you expected is a feeling you can handle, because the shock is gone, and the shock was always half the battle. You stop being the man blindsided by the ache and become the man who saw it coming and prepared for it in the calm of the morning. This is one of the most quietly powerful tools in all of Stoic philosophy, precisely because it works against everything that would otherwise destabilize you. Seneca taught that the unexpected blow lands heaviest, and that the wise man rehearses hardship in advance so that nothing can strike him unprepared. So every morning you rehearse the pull. You expect it, you name it, you decide your response in advance, all while you're calm enough to think clearly. And then when the real moment comes in the heat of the day, you're not deciding under pressure anymore. You're simply executing a decision you already made, from the steadiest version of yourself, hours before the storm arrived. Number 6, the practice. Part 3, the one page. Part 3 is where you get the noise out of your head and onto paper, and it might be the most underrated tool in this entire practice. Every morning before the day pulls you in 100 directions, you sit down with a notebook and you write one page. Not a masterpiece, not anything anyone will ever read, just one honest page, by hand if you can, where you empty whatever is rattling around inside you. And on the mornings the ache is loud, you write about exactly that. You don't run from it, you don't suppress it, you don't pretend you're fine, you put it on the page. I miss her this morning, I want to reach out. Here's what I'm feeling, here's the story my mind is telling me, here's why it's hard today. Because here's the strange magic of it. A feeling trapped inside your head spins in endless loops, growing bigger and more tangled with every lap. But the moment you write it down, you take it out of that loop and put it in front of you where you can actually see it. And the thing you can see clearly almost always shrinks. What felt like an overwhelming formless weight becomes a few sentences on a page, real but contained, and far smaller than it felt when it was running wild in the dark. And then, on that same page, you turn the corner. After you've emptied the ache, you write what you're going to build today instead. You write the intention. Today, I train. Today, I focus on my work. Today, I call my brother. Today, I stay the course, and I do the next right thing. You give the day a direction that has nothing to do with her. This was Marcus Aurelius's own practice. The Meditations weren't a book he wrote for the world. They were his private morning pages. A Roman emperor sitting alone at dawn, writing to himself, reminding himself how to live, talking himself back to his center one entry at a time. If the most powerful man in the world needed to write to steady his own mind every morning, you are not above needing it either. So you write your page, you pour out the ache so it stops running the show from the shadows, and then you point yourself at something worth building. Some mornings the page will be heavy, and some mornings it'll be light, but the act itself does the work every time. It gets the storm out of your head, shrinks it down to size, and lets you walk into your day clear, lighter, and pointed in a direction you chose. Number 7. The practice. Part 4. Move the body. Part 4 is the one that takes everything you've done in your mind and locks it into your body, and it's non-negotiable, because a settled mind in a sluggish body never lasts. After you've claimed your first thought, rehearsed the pull and emptied the page, you move. You get your body going before the day gets going, and it does not have to be some brutal 2-hour ordeal. It can be a hard workout if that's your thing, but it can just as easily be 20 push-ups, a brisk walk, a few minutes of stretching, a cold shower that shocks you fully awake. The point is not the specific movement. The point is that you take action with your body first thing, because action is the antidote to the exact state the ache thrives in. Longing lives in stillness. It lives in lying in bed, in rumination, in the passive scroll, in the motionless dark where your mind is free to spin on her with nothing to interrupt it. Movement breaks that spell instantly. It pulls you out of your head and into your body, floods you with a different chemistry, and reminds your whole system that you are a man who acts, not a man who lies there and aches. And there's something deeper happening here too. Something the Stoics deeply understood about the link between discipline of the body and discipline of the mind. When you make yourself do the hard physical thing in the morning, get up when you'd rather lie there, take the cold shower, push through the workout you don't feel like doing, you are training the exact same muscle you need to hold no contact. You're proving to yourself, first thing, that you can make yourself do hard things, that your comfort doesn't get the final vote, that you are the one in command of your body and not the other way around. And a man who has already won one battle against his own resistance by 7 a.m. walks into the rest of the day carrying that victory. The discipline transfers. The man who conquered the cold shower is far harder to defeat with a craving at noon, because he's already reminded himself who's in charge. The Stoics trained their bodies precisely to fortify their minds, knowing the two could never really be separated. So, you move. Every morning. Not just for your health, not just for your mood, but because every act of physical discipline at dawn is a deposit into the reservoir of self-command you'll be drawing from all day long, including in the moment the urge comes for you. Number 8. Guarding the gates. Now there's one more piece, and it's less of a thing you do and more of a thing you refuse to do, and it might be the one that protects everything else. It's this. In that first hour, you guard the gates of your mind. You do not let the world in before you've armored yourself for it. And in practice, that means one specific, ruthless rule. You don't touch your phone first thing. Not to check her, not to check anyone, not to scroll, not to read the news, nothing. Because here's what most men do. They wake up and immediately fling open every gate to their mind at once, letting in a flood of other people's lives, other people's opinions, the world's chaos, and far too often, the temptation to check on her or fall back into old digital habits. They let all of that program their mind before they've had a single conscious thought of their own. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, scattered, and weak before the day has even started. They handed the keys to their mind to a glowing rectangle the second their eyes opened, and now they're at the mercy of whatever it decided to show them. You're going to do the opposite. You're going to treat the first hour as sacred, sealed, protected, yours and yours alone. The thought, the rehearsal, the page, the movement, all of it happens before the outside world gets a single inch of access to your mind. You build your foundation first, in silence, and only then, once you're grounded and armored and standing on solid ground, do you let the world back in, on your terms, as a man already in command of himself, rather than a man scrambling to react. The Stoics were fierce guardians of what they allowed into their minds. Epictetus warned that the things we let occupy our attention shape the very quality of our soul, and Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly to be careful what impressions he permitted in, because the mind takes on the color of its thoughts. Your phone, first thing in the morning, is the single biggest gate through which the ache, the temptation, and the chaos all pour in. So you keep that gate closed until you're ready. Guard your first hour like it's the most valuable thing you own, because for a man trying to hold no contact and rebuild himself, it absolutely is. Win the gate, and you've protected everything you built behind it. Number 9. How this compounds into freedom. Now I want to show you what actually happens when you do this day after day, because the real magic isn't in any single morning. It's in what these mornings become when they stack. The first morning you do this, it'll feel clumsy, maybe even pointless. You'll claim your first thought and still feel the ache. You'll write your page and still want to check. That's normal, and it's not failure. It's day one. But something quietly profound happens with repetition. The second morning is a little easier. By the end of the first week, the routine starts to feel less like a thing you force and more like a thing you do. By the second week, you notice the morning urge isn't hitting quite as hard because you've been getting to that first moment before it does, over and over, and it's started to lose its grip. And somewhere a few weeks in, you wake up one morning and realize you didn't reach for the phone. Not because you fought the urge, but because the urge to reach for her simply wasn't the first thing there anymore. A new groove has worn itself into your mind, and it's running first now, automatically, before the old one even wakes up. That's the compounding. That's no contact going from impossible to almost effortless, not through some dramatic breakthrough, but through dozens of small, repeated mornings quietly rewiring who you are. And here's the part that goes far beyond no contact, the part that makes this practice worth keeping for the rest of your life. What you're really building in these mornings isn't just the strength to avoid one person. You're building self-mastery itself, the foundational ability to govern your own mind, command your own attention, and direct your own days. And that is a skill that pays out in every single area of your existence. The discipline that holds your no contact is the same discipline that builds your body, advances your career, deepens your character, and makes you the kind of man who follows through on everything he sets out to do. You came here to survive a breakup, but if you keep this practice, you'll walk away with something far greater than recovery. you'll walk away with command of yourself. The Stoics promised that a man who masters his own mind through daily practice becomes free in a way that no external circumstance can touch. And these mornings are exactly how that mastery gets built. Not in one heroic act, but in the quiet, unglamorous repetition of showing up for yourself before the world wakes up. So don't do this just to get over her. Do it because the man who wins his mornings every single day eventually wins everything. Number 10. The final word. So let's bring it all the way home. No contact feels impossible because you've been walking into the hardest, most decisive hour of your day completely unarmed. And because you've been trying to win with willpower, a battle that was only ever going to be won by building a new pattern. So you stop fighting the old groove and you build a better one every single morning before the world can reach you. You claim your first thought before the ache can claim it. You rehearse the pull while you're calm so it can never ambush you again. You empty the storm onto one honest page and then point yourself at something worth building. You move your body and win the first battle of the day before breakfast. And you guard that first hour like it's sacred, because it is. Do those things, and you transform the morning from the moment you were most likely to break into the moment you become unbreakable. And little by little, day by day, you'll feel the impossible turn into the manageable, and the manageable turn into the automatic. Until one morning you realize the silence doesn't hurt the way it used to, because the man waking up into it is no longer the same man who couldn't bear it. You didn't just survive no contact, you used it to forge command over your own life. And if this video gave you even a fraction of the strength you came here looking for, then before you go, do these last few things for yourself. Like this video, so it can reach the next person waking up tomorrow already dreading the morning. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you stand with us as a Stoic soldier. A man who shows up for his own discipline every single day and never misses the lesson when he needs it most. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here, and thank you for watching all the way to the end. So tomorrow, when your eyes open, don't reach for the phone. Reach for the man you're becoming. Win the first thought, win the first hour, and win the day, and let those days quietly add up to a freedom nothing can take from you. Stay grounded, stay unshakable, and I'll see you in the next one.